Okay, great. So let's get started. Hi, my name is Laura Livingston. I am a business and mindset coach, and I'm really passionate about working with people who are passionate about the work that they do. I told a client the other day that if they said, who else can I send you? And I was like, if they love their work, I kind of don't care what we're doing. That I'm in. Like I'm just in. If you're lit up, that I find that incredibly contagious for me. So that's generally my driver. And I work only one-on-one with clients because I really just believe that the best way for me to share my genius with the world is to help people find their way to run their business. My guess is that you've probably already spent some time figuring out how to run a business, right? Like, especially in your first year or two running a business, but also like so much has changed in this landscape, in this industry in the last year or two, that I find a lot of us are going, myself included at some level, are going back a little bit to the basics and the foundational levels of foundational principles of business and tweaking and evolving those pieces as we go, because things just change and evolve over time. And so I just, that's why I only work one-on-one with my clients. I'm a former consultant, and we used to like literally go into offices of our clients. Like I used to have a desk and sometimes an email address for my consulting clients, like literally in their business. And I just find that approach now, while I'm not like, delivering work to my clients like that, these days, I find that I still kind of take that approach to my work. Once a consultant, always a consultant, I think. And one other thing I want to just briefly share is that I have a background in, you may or may not have heard of change management or organization development, but essentially what that is understanding how organizations and also individuals and societies and cultures change and evolve over time. And we're going to be talking about that today. So I just want to sort of share that like some of this comes from what I've learned over almost 7 years in coaching small businesses, but it has a higher or sort of I have a longer and deeper relationship with understanding how we change. And so you're going to hear me talk a little bit about change and how we evolve over time. And I think that's just helpful to know. Essentially, my goal with my clients, and then therefore my goal for you today with Think Differently, is that we get you into a space where whatever's happening in your business right now, we can move the needle in terms of making it healthier, making it more profitable, more sustainable, and more enjoyable. That's my hope for all my people. And so that's my hope for you today. So today's topic is, I didn't really tell you what the topic was. So I'm going to just quickly tell you what the topic is. Normally what I'll do is I'll have those of you who are live tell me like, hey, why are you here? What questions do you have about today's topic? What do you hope to get out of it? But because today's topic is the mindset shift that my clients are making that helps them relieve stress and make more money, like, okay, maybe that was interesting, but like you probably don't have a specific request of what, like how I want to go through. So let me start by just telling you what this mindset is. And then feel free as we go to tell me, oh my gosh, like this is how I see it playing out in my business, or feel free to ask a question as we go. Okay. So this is something that I'm going to back up. Something that I often ask my clients when they are in a place of sort of making a change in their business. A lot of times it's about, how do you talk about what you do? How do you talk about your new offer? How do you talk about particularly in I think small businesses in the last couple of years, like, and particularly coaches, but not just coaches. I feel like my desk is shaking. I'm gonna back up a little bit. No, it's still shaking. Isn't it shaking? Am I shaking? No? Okay. It might just be really, I think it might be the air conditioner, honestly. Okay. Particularly in the online space right now, it is really crowded and saturated. And so I find that some of the work that I'm doing with my clients these days is, okay, great. How, like, marketing was fine and good 2 years ago, but we need to do it a little bit differently. We need to rise above the noise. And how do we make sure that you're standing out above that noise? And so then it kind of oftentimes brings us back to a conversation. Oh, I did just kick the thing. Bring us back to a conversation of how do I talk about what I do in a way that really represents me? Okay, so, oh, it is shaking a little bit. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, thank you, Danae. Yeah, it's shaking, but I'm too hot to turn off the air conditioning, so we're just gonna roll with it. So what is the mindset shift? I'm just gonna jump right into it. The mindset that I see that holds most people back all across the board is, I don't know. I don't know. And I find that some days when I really think, oh, that's where I was going a minute ago, when I really think about like, what do I do at the core? Like I often will ask a client, like, how would you describe this to your grandmother or to someone like maybe I'm dating myself, but like my grandmother is long gone. She lived to see the internet, but did not live to see things like Zoom and people running online businesses. And I often think about like, how would I describe to her like what I do for a living? When like the concept just wasn't there, right? Like it just didn't, this job that I have right now did not exist in its current form back in her day. And so I often find myself like, how would I describe this to my grandmother? And I find that my answer, and I would encourage you, by the way, to ask yourself this question, or even like if you needed to tell an alien, like, what do you do for a living? I just find that to be a really interesting question because it helps just distill all the bullshit and the like, I help people transform their lives and businesses. And it's like, no, I just help people make really good decisions about their business, which is one of my answers. But one of my other answers is oftentimes if I just look back on my week, like what did I do this week? How did I help my clients? They oftentimes will tell me, oh my God, like I finally slept last night after our session. I feel like the I don't know about the thing of the week is complete. I feel like that has just relieved my stress because I do know. I know what to do. I know what the answer is to the business question on the table today. I know that I'm okay. I know whatever it is, the stress relief, or better said, the stress of thinking that you don't know is one of the things that I see spin people out the most. And I think it's one of the biggest things that I provide to my clients. And I would argue, I don't know what everybody does who's listening to this live or on the replay, but I bet that's what you do for your clients too, at some level. I bet you help them solve a problem that makes them go, oh, because I did not know how to solve it or what needed to be solved specifically or what it needed to look like, right? Like, that's what I think we do for our clients, especially if you're a service provider. But I would argue there's lots of products out there that also create stress relief and help people solve a little bit of an I don't know problem. So a little bit more about I don't know, and then what are we going to do about this I don't know thing? I find that if you are dealing, so we're going to come back to business because this is my world. And running a small business, right? Most people in my world are running a small business, even if you have a team, even if you have, like, I work with people who are solopreneurs, where literally they are the only people on deck, right? You are the content writer, you are the VA, you are the bookkeeper, you are the CEO, you are the business strategy person, you are all the things, right? Or even if you have one or two people supporting you, you're still wearing multiple hats. And even I also have clients who have more of like an agency consultancy model. Even that still requires the business owner in most cases to just wear multiple hats. And I would imagine that whatever feels like the biggest challenge in your business right now, I bet you there's some level of mindset behind it Today's mostly about mindset. I might talk a little bit about strategy because I have a hard time doing only one or the other. But if we're looking just underneath it, so whether it's something like, I don't know where my next client's coming from. I don't know the direction I want to take this business in. I don't know how to make my marketing sound like me so that I can stand above the noise. I don't know how I'm going to have, or where I'm going to pull out the balls to have this really tough conversation with the client or a team member. I just don't know how I'm going to have that conversation. It's really going to be awkward and difficult. I bet that most of whatever challenge you're dealing with in your business right now, I bet somewhere underneath there is some I don't know-ness. And I find that this can, you know, I think in general in business, when we're running our own business, like the beauty of it is that this hasn't been done before. Like, even though there's a million other business coaches out there, nobody's running my business my way, right? And nobody is thinking about things exactly the same way I am. And so things are shifting and evolving over time. And my job is to sort of balance that, enough stability and enough change as we go. Let me pause and make sure I'm saying what I want to, how I want to say it. But I think the I don't know-ness. So with all the time, things are always going to be changing and evolving, right? Like, that's life and that's business. So there's going to be moments of I don't know that are at some level pretty legit, right? Like, okay, I'm doing something new. I don't know how to do this. Right? I started marketing my work on a new platform. Yeah, there's a learning curve here. But when I don't know becomes your mindset, right? Or when I don't know isn't few and far between and kind of over here on the side that pops up every now and then. That's normal. We're not trying to quash that, right? We're always going to be human and have fears and have things come up. But when it starts to get bigger and take up more of your time and brain space, and you find yourself, and it's a great one. I bet your clients are saying this to you at some level when they're on discovery calls or when they first come to you, like, I don't know, fill in the blank. So this can also help you with your marketing. There's the strategy. There's your strategy tip of the day. But when it starts to predominate, or when it starts to grow, it's a great opportunity for you to just be like, hold on a minute. Like, the I don't knows are coming up way too much. Let me take a look. What's happening? Because it can spin you out. And as a former hypnotherapist who's done a lot of work around and looking into and working with people's subconscious minds, which I don't do anymore, but I still use all the learning that I learned there, which is the subconscious mind is like a obedient puppy. Most puppies aren't very obedient, but imagine a puppy that does exactly what you tell it to. That's like, oh, okay, so we don't know how to do this. Okay, I am going to go out and find all the evidence that we don't know shit. Right? I'm going to go. Oh, okay, I got it. Now I have my job. I don't know. And so when we tell ourselves we don't know, then we don't know. And the I don't know can get bigger, right? And this is true really for any mindset challenge, but I just find this one to be at the root of a lot of business challenges. And the biggest reason, so of course, I'm talking about like, this is going to help relieve your stress. Yes, of course, right? Because if you don't know, it's very obvious that that will be stressful for you over time. The more you're telling yourself you don't know, you're in a mindset of don't know-ness instead of a mindset of solving the problem, a mindset of finding a solution, a mindset of possibility and opportunity, and let me try something. But the other way the I don't know messes you up, slows you down, jacks you up, whatever you want to say, holds you back, and it's literally in the title, is it keeps you from making more money. Let me not ask that question. It keeps you from making more money. And I say that because I find, and again, this is not everybody, I can't speak for every single example, but I find so often the I don't know keeps you from taking what I call strategic action. So just a quick side note, when I do my coaching, when I approach a client, work with my clients, I have a coaching framework. It starts with having a really clear vision about your life and how it integrates with your business, and a really clear vision for your business. Then it has strategic action, which is not just your strategy going outward, right? Your marketing, your offers, your business model, how your customer journey aligns, how your offers align with one another, but it's also internal strategic action, meaning your team is set up to run the business well, the way you're managing your time is efficient, you're setting yourself up for systems and processes, and things are operating efficiently so that you're sustainably profitable. So vision, strategic action, mindset. I could go on for days about mindset. And then we're ongoing, we are adapting and adjusting and creating resilience over time so that we're not too fixed, but we have enough stability to stand the test of time. And so we're talking about how this mindset keeps you from strategic action. And I want to talk about how that sort of plays out in two different ways, but I'm just going to quickly pause. Are there questions, comments? Where is I don't know playing out for you if you feel like sharing? So strategic action obviously is the thing in your business, the most obvious thing, right? The most tangible part of running a business. If you just like go back to my grandma and say like, how do you run a business? If you're being strategic and you're taking action, somebody who doesn't know anything about business is going to go, yeah, okay, that'll make you money. That's gonna run a business. Okay, fine, right? They can get down with that. That's way overly simplified, but let's just leave it at that. But what does strategic action mean in terms of where the I don't know comes in? I find it tends to move us in one extreme direction or another. And you might know which one of these you are, or you might not, and it might be worth thinking about. And we're all kind of all of these things. It oftentimes depends on the circumstance, but it oftentimes will move us into either, I'm just going to call it extreme. It'll either move us, I don't know, so I can't take action until I know, right? So it takes us out of strategic action, and in a lot of cases, out of action altogether, or out of enough action that it slows things down. A lot of times people come to me when they're in some sort of creative pivot, or whether they know the direction they want their business to go in or not. Even when you know exactly where you want to go, I find that not knowing enough about what you want your business to look like next oftentimes can pull us back into like, okay, well, now I just have to kind of like spend all this time thinking, because I have to have that clarity, because clarity, it sucks when you don't have clarity. That's really what we're talking about here, right? Like I talked about my framework, having a clear vision. If you don't have a clear vision, it kind of like hurts your soul at some level, right? Like those have been the hardest moments for me in business, when I didn't have a clear vision. For other people, they're like, I've had a clear vision forever. I always know where I want to go. I just don't know how to get there. But either way, that creates a tension, it creates a stress, and it can spin us out. And a lot of times it will pull us into either inaction or extreme action. So the inaction is generally, I don't know, and therefore I have to know before I can move forward. And that before I can is also another little like detector for yourself. If you hear yourself saying, I don't know, or I can't do this until I get this, I can't do this till I have clarity, I can't move forward until, I can't be visible until, I can't call that, I can't follow up on that discovery call until, right? Like it starts to get into that really sneaky saboteur of like, no, it's okay. Laura said I need to have a clear vision. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna get my clear vision. And I can't, like I can't reach out and make an offer to that person that I'm scared to make an offer to, but I really want to work with, even though it's time for me to sign my next client, right? Like whatever the thing is, the saboteur gets really, really sneaky and logical about how not only do I need to know before I can move forward, but I need to know like everything. I need to know the direction I want my business in. I got to write my business plan. I got to get the sales page. Oh, I'm going to have to redo my about page. Definitely going to have to redo my about page on my website, right? Like, I have to reprice it. I better go into my booking links and change the pricing again, and then rethink how I'm gonna. Okay, yeah, right. Like you can just go on and on and on and on and on and pull yourself out of inaction. And a lot of what I'm talking about kind of sounds like taking action. So I'm not actually saying no action. Sometimes it does freeze you, right? Sometimes you just like can't accomplish anything because you're so unclear. But sometimes we're taking action that's not strategic. Either way, that's going to slow down the money. Right. Okay, let me pause and actually read these comments. Common phrase for me when I'm overwhelmed. Absolutely. That's the time. That's a really good indicator for me as well, Danae, that I'm either trying to solve 8 things at once and I need to like put a to-do list together, even if it's just a to-do list to think through things. Because my thoughts are disorganized, I will be overwhelmed that way. I'll be overwhelmed if I have too much work on my plate. And then I'll just be like, I don't know how I can do this. I don't know where I'm going. Oh my God, I better just quit for the day, right? Like, or whatever the thing is. Or, oh, okay, that I need to work all night, right? Which extreme, you're probably noticing which extreme you might tend towards. And for my service providers and my coaches, like this is also a way that a lens that you can use to look at your clients, because they're probably erring in one way or the other. And it can kind of be a framework for you to use to sort of help them sort of move either towards a little bit of action or to slow down a little bit and get a little more clarity before they take action. I'm feeling an analysis paralysis and like, I don't know what to do next to move the needle to get clients faster. The I don't know is a sign of burnout for me too. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the I don't know, how do I say this? Like, I think sometimes I don't know can burn you out before the truth of the lack of clarity can burn you out, if that makes sense. Like, because you just keep telling yourself, I don't know. And then I don't know too many times just by itself is overwhelming, even if I don't know isn't even really true, right? So it could just be, I have a moment, I'm having a moment, which has nothing to do with how I'm running my business, my strategy. There's literally nothing to change in my business. I'm just having a moment. I might also be saying, I don't know, right? And so then it can just increase the stress. And I'm not saying that's what you're suggesting, Bridget, but that's just what it made me think of. When I have too many choices, my default is I don't know 100%, right? I love entrepreneurship for the choices, like infinite choices. And then also like, holy crap, there's too many choices. There's always something that has to be tabled. There's always a great idea, right? There's always something, and that's great. And we also have to like, have a life and sleep and eat and do other things. What if I make the wrong choice? Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely keeps me from getting in action. And this is so juicy. Love this conversation. Good. Me too. Okay. Let me just check the time and see where I can. Okay. 15 more minutes. Keep asking questions. This is great. Thank you. So yeah, I did talk about, so it can pull you into inaction, right? Like, and I think the inaction piece, or the taking some action, but not really accomplishing anything, right? So if you feel like you've been in this space for like a couple of weeks, that might just be like, just as a change expert, that's kind of normal. It's kind of normal when we are making a change. If you're making a big change, like you're adding a new offer, you're you're going onto a new platform, you have a new strategy, you have a new business. Like if you're making a big change, it could be 6 months to a year of the like, whoa, we're in transition. And I'm not trying to overwhelm you, and I can't like speak to all business examples, but I think at some level, any amount of change creates some, I don't know, or, oh, I got to figure out how to do this. I just like unrooted something. I've got to sort of sort the pieces out and put it back, in. Clean out the closet is another great example. So sometimes the I don't know, again, sometimes the I don't know is a little bit true, but when it needs to be, oh, I don't know, it needs to be more of a validation, or I think a healthier way to look at it is, how can I make this a validation? Oh, I don't know because I'm just doing something new. Oh, I don't know how to do this because I've literally never done this before. Oh, I don't know how to do this because I just need to learn a little bit more about this so that I can feel like I know more. But the I don't know in that case isn't wrong. It's just it's like the nature of the beast. And so that might calm the like unnecessary I don't knows and put I don't know in its right little category where it's true. And so the one other question I want to ask you, and this comes from Byron Katie, and I love this so much. This is like one of my favorite mindset tips. She will say, when you find yourself telling yourself this story, or really any story, Byron Katie's The Work, great book. Is it true? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, is it true? Yes, true. I'm new. I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. Okay. The second question's the killer. Is it really true? And then you're just like, okay, maybe I don't know isn't right. Maybe it's just I'm learning, right? And then we can put that in a healthy box and chill out the I don't know and the I don't know stress, and just get back into action that's strategic. That's, oh, I'm just here on a learning curve. No problem, right? It just puts the truth up front, I find, and chills the story out. And there's always some work to do. I'm not saying these are like always like, magic, but they can help immensely. Okay, let me just see what I want to say here about. So inaction or I don't know. No, let me say this differently. Sometimes I think mindset, when you're saying, like, especially if you like to journal when you're doing mindset work or visualizing, or you're really like diving into, like, if you do tapping or whatever you like to do for mindset, a lot of times people will take that I don't know and try to play with that, right? So if you're going to do that, what I really suggest is that you find a sentence that's, to follow Byron Katie's example, that's actually more true than I don't know, and more empowering than I don't know. And a lot of times when we just try to flip it to, oh, I know, I do know, sometimes that's not true either. And it just kind of doesn't help, right? Like, it's kind of like, my example is always like, if you see somebody who's like just gotten into a car accident and they're lying on the side of the road waiting for the ambulance, and you tell them to just calm down and meditate, like, they're at 100% freak out trauma, and you're trying to pull them all the way down to like, it just doesn't work. Right? We might want to calm them down, but like asking them to go from 180 to 0 is not the answer. And that's not going to work for your brain either, because your brain's too sneaky for that. And so I often like to play with some version of, make this your own. I know enough. I know enough. I don't know the direction I want to take my business in. Let's use that one as a great example. Okay, but I do know some things. I know what I don't want. I know some of what I don't want, right? I know enough. I know something that I know how I want it to feel, because I don't want it to feel like this. Okay, let's dive deeper. What do I want it to feel like, right? You do know something, and you do know enough to do what is the last piece of my framework, which is iterate and test and evolve over time. So if you don't know something, one of the best ways to get into strategic action is find a bite-sized thing that you can test out. I used to this in, I always like to use a web design as an example, such like everybody understands what a web designer does. And I tend to work with a lot of web designers and copywriters. I don't know why. But a lot of times my web designers will have other services they offer as well. Maybe you do branding, maybe you do copywriting, maybe you do graphics, right? Maybe you're generally a web designer and you every now and then write copy for people too, but it's not like on your website. It's not technically part of your offer. Like that's just sort of like a little thing. And you're thinking about expanding to add copywriting, right? And maybe you don't know. Test it out. Take an existing client that you would like to write for, make them an offer, see if they'd like you to write something, a paragraph, 1 page, your bio, whatever it is. Where can you find a small test option for you to test it out to give you that clarity? Action breeds clarity. I'm not going to make that a question either. Action breeds clarity, period. Not too much action, right? Change Management 101 says you don't want to be too frozen and you don't want to be throwing spaghetti against the wall. Too much action will also create more I don't know, because if you just go back to like science class in the 8th grade when you were taught like the scientific method, we need to know what variable is affected when we do our experiment, right? So if you try 8 different things and you sign a client, how do you know which thing was the thing? You don't. So now your new strategy is to do 8 different things. Holy crap, right? Like, no. So if we can come into how can I just get to, I know enough to identify an action I can take to help me get more clarity. Progress is your friend here. You're not, honestly, like, I don't think any business owner always has full clarity all the time. So throw that shit out the window. Stop trying to expect that, right? And you have a lot more clarity than you have enough clarity to know how to take your next step action. And so rather than, oh my God, I don't know where I want to go, how can I find an action I can take to help me dial in this mindset of, I know enough. I know enough for right now, because the truth is you don't know any more than you already do. And that's the truth, right? Like Eckhart Tolle says, like the definition of suffering is resisting reality. Like reality is, this is all the clarity you have today. So can we just make that right instead of making it wrong? And when we just make that right, I know enough. I know enough for today. Great. I would like to know more tomorrow. What action can I take that gets me a little bit further down the road? Baby steps are the win. Baby steps are the win. Okay, I'm going to check my notes. I'm going to check the comments because we have like 5 more minutes. If you have questions that have been burning and you haven't asked them, now's the time to put them in the chat or raise your hand and you can come. We can have a little convo. Yeah, and I think one more piece that I just had in my notes that I want to share about this taking too much action or too much change is, I find that a lot of times this is when business owners want to burn it all down. And they're like, screw it. I don't do this anymore. I'm going to go figure out how to do this. Right? We shut it down. We start back over. Right? And as a person who loves pivots and change and evolving, like, I am so here for the big dramatic, even starting a business, right? We've all done the big thing, but that's not very nervous system regulating if that's kind of how you operate and you change something every 6 months to a year, right? Sometimes we're really, truly just still figuring out what we want to do and how we want to do it. And that's not wrong. And too much change is just too much change, period. And a lot of times the answer is in the middle. But when you're burnt out and tired and annoyed and you don't know how to solve the problem that you need to solve, it will burn you out. It does just wear you out. And it does create that I don't know-ness that I think we can swim in for too long. And so I'm going to read the chat here because I'm seeing a couple of things come in. So I want to say a couple of things. One more final thing about this, which is sometimes the I don't know-ness comes from, I know what the problem is. I just don't know what the solution is. I don't know what gap. So if you're hearing me say like, oh, just find the small action, you're like, Laura, I don't know. Like, I don't even know where in my business to start. And I have 12 different places that it could be. I have a free mini session. This is one of the things that I use these mini sessions for, is just getting clarity on where the actual, I'm actually a big believer that like we don't have problems in our business, but let's use this as the example of where the source of the problem is. And then you know where to focus, and then you know what expert to hire to help you, right? Then you know what to keep the same and what to not touch. And then you can just put all of your I don't know energy and time into solving the right problem. That is, and that I would also argue that that's probably what you help your clients do. You identify where within your area of expertise their problem is, or the source of their problem is, and what's the gap to close to get them from where they are to where they want to be. We often can't diagnose our own businesses. That's why I have a job. We often, and whatever it is that you do for your clients, they can't always diagnose that problem for themselves, and that's part of your job. And so finding a place to close that gap, just back to the beginning, I think is half of my job these days, is just not just the mindset piece of it, but like literally looking at the strategy and saying like, where is the I don't know coming from, and what action can we take to solve it? So if you've never had a free mini session with me, please take me up on this. In fact, I'm going to stick it here in the chat. Or you can do, if you've done, oh, that's not it. I thought I copied it. If you've done a mini session with me already, because they are one per person, you're welcome to join me for a, copy this, for a intensive. My intensive is all focused on creating your offer. But if you have a different I don't know, then we'll customize it for you. Okay, here's just all my links. I'm just going to throw it in the chat. You'll get an email with these links too. But a free mini session is like sometimes just the gap closer to fine tune what's next for you. And if you're feeling the I don't know, please let me support you. Okay. This makes me feel better. I just want to speed through the I don't know, but it's true. That's part of the process. Absolutely. Bridget says, love that, Emily. Yeah, it is part of the process. And from a mindset perspective, when it gets too big, come back and listen to this again, right? When it gets too big, talk to a friend, talk to another entrepreneur, talk to your coach, sign up with me for a free session. Like that's where we grab your therapist. That's where we need to stop processing in the like I always say, like, that's when we need to calm the crazy. Like if I'm talking to myself in my office by myself for too long, sometimes that helps me think. But then I know like when I start to go a little Kooksville in my own head and I just need, okay, I'm adding this on my list to discuss with whoever's the right person to discuss this with, my coach, my partner, my team, my biz bestie, etc. I've used I don't know more than I realize. Yeah. Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one. Love that I know how I want it to feel. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to flip it, right? So instead of like, oh, I know everything, I know how I want it to feel. So I know something and I know enough for today. This was me today. Yes. Yes. I think not knowing is the juice. Yeah, we always feel like we have to know rather than letting ourselves bounce ideas off someone and marinate in the not knowing, not rushing to the answer. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this just is also for, and Dr. Laura, thank you. And this just is honestly like, there is a lot of strategy and predictability and practicality, I think, to business. And running a business is also really a creative process. It just is. And when we act like it's not, then we expect it to, it's that suffering definition again. We expect it to be different than it is. And I also like to remind my clients, and I bet every single one of you live on this and on the replay is this as well. You were probably drawn to entrepreneurship because, as Emily said, there are so many choices, right? Because it's creative, because it's infinite possibilities, because it's creating something out of nothing, because you have full freedom to do whatever you want, right? Like this is just comes with it. And there are ways to navigate it. And it doesn't have to, dominate your entire entrepreneurial journey. There are ways to find the I do know, or I know enough for today, that just kind of keeps you in that strategic action instead of running, swinging, starting new businesses, or oh, I better sit in my office and really think about this for the next 3 weeks without doing anything until I figure this out, right? Like, and I'm being a little silly and dramatic in my examples, but we all know we've all been in all of those places at one point in time or another. And we've probably seen clients, colleagues, friends in that space too. It's just normal. And you don't have to sit in that space. Okay. Any other questions? I'm going to close us for now. Next week at this time, we are not meeting for Think Differently, but we are meeting for Real Connections. So if you would like to network with some people who have real conversations, that's what we do every fourth Thursday at this time. And then 2 weeks from now at this time, we'll be back for another topic. And I just came up with it and threw it on the website. What is it? Let me tell you really quick. Oh, I forgot already. I want to tell you because it actually feeds in. It's sort of like a good part 2 to today's conversation. What most business owners misunderstand about doing it scared and how to think differently about your entrepreneurial comfort zone. So this is a little bit, I'm just going to tease it out. I'm just going to tell you now a little bit of the secret. Like we're going to talk a little bit more about that, like wanting to change too much, right? Oh, I just need to get out of my comfort zone and doing that a little bit too much, right? So how we can find that balance. So I'll be talking more on that next week or in 2 weeks, if that sounds good to you. You're welcome. You're welcome, everybody. You need to do a Think Differently book or podcast. I know. I think this could feed a lot of things. Thank you. I appreciate you offering these. Thank you. I appreciate you all being here. This is so fun for me. This helps me think through what I want to say. It helps me serve clients and potential clients. And it's just fun and creative, and it's really valuable to me. I used to do these as Facebook Lives. And I really like seeing people's faces. So thank you. Like, please, you don't have to come on your camera, but I love that those of you that are, because it makes me feel like I'm talking to a real person instead of into the void. And I think we need more community in our work. And so that's what I'm hoping to create with these as well. Okay, have a great week. I'll see you same time next week for networking, and Think Differently again in 2 weeks. And see you then. Thanks, bye.